I am speaking about Unit 2 in Paper 2, State in Comparative Perspective, Characteristics of Changing Nature of State in Capitalist and Socialist Societies. Why I chose this topic? Because when I referred to some of the notes available for UPSC preparation, I couldn't understand enough or I couldn't get sufficient content, but later I realized that there is a lot when it comes to comparative understanding. So, I thought I can speak about this topic to share some information. So, there are many problems between developed and developing countries. Yeah, it is quite obvious to say that, but how do we look at those problems systematically? For example, if you see in case of India, India is going to lot of problems with respect to communalism, or it could be with respect to the way we handle international relationships, or with respect to the democracy or voting patterns. If you see or take an example of Pakistan, the religion fundamentalism is one such issue. Or if you want to compare between developed countries and developing countries or third world countries still claim that they are being exploited. So, how do we study all these problems in a theoretical framework from the different lenses or different perspective? You can speak from liberal perspective, you can speak from Marxism perspective, or you can speak from post-colonial perspective. So, when you speak using those lenses, I mean such perspectives, and then compare between states, that is what you study in comparative analysis. See, generally you can classify developed countries into capitalist countries and socialist countries. Then within capitalist you can call unmanaged and managed, and if you have socialist countries, you can speak of state socialism or market socialism. State socialism is about USSR and market socialism is about Yugoslavia, where it started adopting some market reforms. When it comes to developing countries, you can analyze the developing countries using liberal, Marxist and post-colonial understanding. And also there are various theorists or scholars. It could be Stephen Wasby, Almond and Verba, Lucian Pye, Huntington, David Apter, Edward Shills, Gunnar Myrdal, Rudolf and Rudolph, and F.W. Riggs. So, if you know one or two points about these scholars, it will definitely help you in writing a good answer. And also, if you are preparing for NET, then you can expect some questions here too. I want to speak about developed and developing countries from the perspectives of these liberal scholars, and also there are Marxist scholars and also post-colonial scholars. I have not written them here, but I will speak about them. So, when it comes to developed societies, we know laissez-faire model, where the state has no interest in the market, or this is the liberals perspective, where they do not expect state to participate in any kind of the market activities, but instead they just want the state to regulate the activities instead of directly establishing a business. For example, if you see in India, what India is doing is they are rolling down its participation in public sector unit. Lots of disinvestment is happening. Considering that in case of India, the market is growing, the private participation is increasing. So, this is something that has happened a long back in case of the United States, where the state has grew from liberal to neoliberal. In between there was a welfare state. I will speak about the welfare state also, but when it comes to the capitalist states, when it is unmanaged means the state takes no role. It could be education or health in managing such aspects. The state do not establish any schools, the state do not control the public health expenditures. For example, if you see Obamacare was one such initiative. Now in US also we have some sort of welfare mechanisms. It is not completely left to the market, but it is mostly a neoliberal state. most of the things are left to the private, where private decides what should the investment, where private decides what products to be produced. So everything or most of the public activities or the market forces are controlled by the private investments. When we speak of managed capitalist, for example, it could be Germany. It's how the welfare state came into picture. When you leave so much things to the unmanaged capitalism, that's how we started seeing the problems in 1930s, because it could be the world war or global depressions, economic depressions, or it could be the recessions. So in order to avoid all those things, the government started thinking how we can address such issues, and then they began thinking about a managed capitalism that is nothing but a welfare state. India is also a welfare state. We have lots of schemes for women, children, employment, skills development, all those things. When government takes some form of interest in solving or some kind of interest in resolving the problems of the people or some welfare mechanisms, especially in health, education and employment, then it becomes a welfare state. So this started happening in Germany, where people started establishing the councils, where workers become part of the council. They started bargaining with the industries, and then some form of welfare mechanism was built into. So that's how they started managing the capitalist. And within the developed societies, you can also have socialist states, where famous examples are USSR and Yugoslavia. So what happened in socialist state? So they were influenced by communism principles. They wanted to avoid private ownership. They wanted state to have most of the control. It could be control or deciding what to be produced, how much to be produced. They wanted to start collectivizing the lands. So as it's inspired by principles of communism, where state started controlling most of the things, and then land became the state property, and then people had to obey to the mechanisms or the strategy of the government rather than obeying to the needs of the people. So it's always a competition between the state and the market. See, in liberal models you see the market taking an upper hand, but in socialist models you see state taking an upper hand. But if you have some idea of what happened during Lenin or Stalin, then what kind of the reforms they started doing it. So they did not give unexpected results, and then there were severe consequences. Hence they thought that not everything can be under the state control. We need to liberalize some sectors to the private, and then they started opening up the market to some extent to the private players, and then this becomes a market socialist. For example, China. Now China today, it has liberalized economy, but polity it has not liberalized it. Still a one party rule, but when it comes to the market forces or what to be produced, how much to be produced, when it comes to the economy, it's on par with US. So lots of changes has happened. So considering that, we can have two divisions within the socialist, that is state socialism and market socialism. So that's about the developed countries, but when it comes to developing countries, we can view from the perspectives of liberal, Marxist and post-colonial. I am stopping it here and I will take questions. Thank you.